This is the Sondors Ebike, formerly the Storm electric bike. It's been a controversial product because it was funded on Indiegogo, ended up raising nearly $6 million. A whole bunch of people backed this because it was so affordable. Initially, that was sort of advertising that it's like $4.99, but then you pay a couple extra $100 for shipping, so maybe $700, and now you can still get this. You can kind of order it and then wait in line. It's around $800, so I'm just gonna say, it's still a very affordable bike, even with shipping, and I've actually been impressed with some of the components and kind of the fit and finish that they ended up with. So let me just go over what makes this a bicycle. Hey, we've got some, low-rise handlebars up here. They added these nice ergonomic grips with lockers, so these lockers keep the grips straight, like they aren't gonna twist like some of those, kids' bikes and stuff that we've probably all had. So that's nice. They've got some risers here that kind of bring the stem up a little bit and make this more of an upright ride instead of something that's really aggressive. I like that. It only comes in one frame size, and that's what we're looking at here. It's like 18 inches, so I measured from seat tube down to the bottom bracket. That was 18 inches. Got some more measurements back on the website. I try to be very thorough about the specs because they've changed over the course of this campaign, and I'll get to that more later. Got some pro wheel cranks here, aluminum alloy platform pedals. They said Welgo initially, but these are just kind of generic. They still work really well, and they resemble Welgo, and they got reflectors, so I'm definitely stoked about that. Got a kickstand here. It's kind of nice to have because a lot of times these fat bikes don't have them, and you lean it up against the wall and it can fall and hit your car or whatever. That's no fun. Speaking of cars, one of the things this doesn't have is a quick release on either one of the wheels. Okay, they just have these standard bolts, and you can easily, take a tool and get the wheel off. And I would recommend that if you're going to try to fit this in your car, or even sometimes storing it, because it's just so massive. I mean, if you look at this bike, it looks sort of proportional, which is great, but because the tires are fairly large, they're 26 by, they say 4.9. I did some measurements, and it's definitely large. It's like 30 inches diameter, right? And that's quite large, and they're just wider. The whole profile of the bike is just a little bit bigger, so being able to move it might require taking that front wheel off, and that's pretty easy to do, but again, have some tools. Mechanical disc brakes here with Tektro rotors. Tektro calipers. I'm not sure about the rotor. They're 160 millimeter. I think initially they had said 180, but in my experience, the 160 has been fine. They offer decent stopping power, and they come with these like 5-star brake levers that have a motor inhibitor built right in. So like if you're pushing the throttle and then you brake, it cuts power to the motor. Now, a lot of throttle-only electric bikes like this, they don't have motor inhibitors because, if you let go of the throttle, it's going to stop. Most of the time when they have something like this, it's because there's pedal assist built in. And what's really interesting about this bike is that there is a cadence sensor. See that little like black disc right here? That's a pedal-X sensor, and it's sort of wired up, but it's disconnected inside the battery box. So that's really interesting because they have this extra hardware that probably cost them some money. They aren't really using it, and it might just be because they built this kind of customized an existing platform. Anyway, the frame is all steel. I got this magnet here to kind of demonstrate that. There's the fork, it's steel. The frame is steel, and that's interesting because it has some vibration dampening qualities. I love that it's got these threaded eyelets on the seat stay because you can add a rack or some fenders on this thing. Here's a hole at the front. Again, nice to be able to customize that. That is going to add some weight. I weighed this earlier with the battery in and everything. It's 59 pounds. And that was an area where there was a lot of controversy with this bike early on because it was advertised as 45 pounds. So, we're talking about, like 15 pounds almost difference. That's a pretty big difference. And I'm not sure that it really matters. It still pedals all right. It still goes. So, kind of call it what it is. Yeah, 59 pounds. Also, the battery pack, I guess that's really where we're going to head next. And it's inside this great plastic case, which is really unique in the world of e-bikes. And it's fairly slim, it's rounded and it's color matched. This does come in 4 colors, sort of the black and yellow, or yellow and gold, blue and black, or black on black. And I chose this one because it's kind of fun. It's got the logo, so you can see it during the review. And I've enjoyed it. A couple people have actually commented on it, but I should continue with the bike. So we've got just sort of a generic comfort saddle, kind of a quick release adjustable seat post height, a unique seat post size, and I've got that back at the side as well. Schrader valves, we've got this punched out rim, and let me just check on these rims here. Yeah, they're aluminum alloy, and with the punch outs, you get that fun kind of pass through of the color there with the kind of the tire liner, but it also creates these little softer spots where if you're going over bumps, it can kind of absorb some of that, you know, like the terrain. It can kind of smooth out the ride, because this doesn't have a suspension fork. And even though the seat has bumpers, a lot of what makes this enjoyable to ride is the steel frame and the larger tires. So anyway, I like the punch outs, and of course it reduces weight because you've just got less metal material on the bike. I think that's kind of a good quick overview. When we got it, I actually had some friends who run an e-bike company help me put it together, because it did take a little bit more effort, and a lot of the brake levers were spun around. There was just more stuff that had to be done with this bike than other electric bikes that I've received and reviewed. And, you know, I think it's coming straight from China, and that's sort of an interesting situation, because they do say it has a 30-day warranty, which isn't very much, but I haven't actually been able to reach these guys to update my address recently, or to get any feedback. And so I wonder how you would even go about getting your 30-day warranty if you needed it. But, you know, again, super low price. Like, that's kind of what you're trading off on this thing. The other big question in my mind before I got this was like, okay, is it going to be pretty sturdy? Is it going to be able to handle the weight? And it does seem pretty good that way. I think these are like 14 gauge spokes, and a few of them did have to be tightened up when it arrived. They weren't especially straight, like in terms of truing, just all the stuff that you'd want to look at if you were a shop and receiving a bike and setting it up for a customer. As the end consumer with this, you might have to take on some of those other tasks, or maybe work with your local shop for 50, 100 bucks, get them to tune it up. Okay, so over on this side, we've got a nice plastic chain guide. I like that because it keeps the chain tight. There's only, you know, like one cog in the front and one cog in the rear. So it's sort of a single speed. And I've looked at like maybe trying to add a cassette or something, but there just isn't room here, and there's no like nowhere to mount your derailleur hanger. So it's kind of a single speed. You could go with like an Efneo or Schlumpf sort of bottom bracket gearing system where they give you a few different gears, 2 or 3. That's kind of expensive, and depending on what you're doing, I'm not sure it's worth it. Like, I'm here at the beach for fun because, you know, it's beautiful, and I wanted to test this on the sand, and it's doing all right. But you can make it perform better by decreasing sort of the pressure in the tires. But in so doing, you sort of limit how efficient it is, and it's always sort of a trade-off. You know, it's only got a 350 watt motor, which is sort of on the average to small side of electric bikes in the United States. And for a big bike like this, I'd say it feels a little underpowered. But for on roads and around town and stuff, it's great. And it even worked all right on the beach over here. But, you know, I'm 135 pounds, so I'm not really pushing it to the limits. I'm also doing a range test. I've got Strava going, and I'm trying to see how far it can go on a single charge, because that was another area that was sort of controversial. Like, they advertised, you know, 50 miles per charge, and you know, and then later it was like, oh, with an asterisk, it's up to 50, and then later it was like, oh, 30 to 50, and, you know, we'll see. Again, for me, it wasn't like a big selling point that this could go 50 miles, because I just didn't believe that. I mean, very few electric bikes with hub motors with, you know, kind of these smaller battery packs go that distance. And then when you add the fat tires, you add the weight, it's like, I felt a little bit deceived by that. As someone who knows about electric bikes, it was like, why is that really necessary? But, you know, at the end of the day, it's working fine. So maybe we should just get into it. This is a Bafang, obviously, 350 watt internally geared hub, and it's different than a lot of the ones I've seen. It's a little bit wider. I like that it's black. It matches the spokes. It actually looks pretty cool, and it's relatively quiet, and it's just kind of what I would expect from a geared hub. But it just fits really well with this, you know, the bigger wheel and everything in the back. And then the battery pack, what we're looking at here is the case. You just kind of turn this dial. You can reach it for charging by pulling off this rubber nipple right here. Look at that. You can charge the battery while it's on the bike. I like that a lot. That was really cool. And there is actually another one of these rubber nipples on the other side. And at first I was like, why? But it's actually because there's an on-off switch that you can access to turn the battery on or off. So it is sort of a two-step process, as with a lot of electric bikes I've reviewed recently. You have to turn the battery on, and then you have to press this on button again at the display to basically activate it, to get it going. Okay, so let's go back and let's dig into the battery a little bit more. Let's see here. I was having fun with this, trying to see what I could fit in there, and I actually got the charger to fit in there. So this is about, you know, 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. It's a 2 amp charger, and I brought it along because, you know, I was a little bit concerned about range, and I thought maybe I can top the battery off if we run low. But it's just really cool that you can store this in here. I've also got the keys down there. You do need the keys to unlock the pack and get it out. And it's got Samsung cells, which is pretty cool. You know, it's a brand I recognize. And it's a 36 volt, 8.8 amp hour. So not bad, not super big. I'd say it's slightly below average, but, you know, the configuration is good. It keeps the weight low and centered on the frame, on that down tube, and hidden. So you can imagine if it didn't have that box, this would be kind of ugly with all the wires and stuff. So I like that they actually run the wires through, keep everything looking relatively nice. And you can see over there for the motor, there's actually a quick disconnect. So if you have to take this off and do some service or something, you can take it completely off. There's also like these little, I guess, chain tensioner right there, or kind of like torque arms. So it's decent. Like, there's some good stuff going on here. It's another good shot of the cadence sensor on the other side. That again is it doesn't work. There's just like a cable that ends in there. It's just kind of funny to see that. Here's the controller, just for more info. I'll have a picture of that back on the site. I'm gonna try to get this back on. It was a little bit tricky to get it in here to begin with. There we go. And then just close this door over it. Sweet. Oh boy. Okay, so I guess we've kind of hit all the major components and stuff on this bike. It's still kind of an entry-level build in a few of the components, or just things I haven't really seen before that, you know, feel a little bit cheaper. But I've got to say, you know, they did a good job on the graphics. This is sort of like a pretend tapered head tube, so it bumps out a little bit, but I don't think it's actually tapered or overbuilt. The steel works fine. The tires are decent. You know, it gets the job done. And I guess my biggest concern throughout this whole purchase process was, will I get anything at all, and what will I do in the event that it fails? But it looks like you can get a battery pack for a couple hundred, $250 or whatever to replace in the future. And they've got their website sort of getting set up, but you still buy through Indiegogo, and I think a lot of people are still waiting for their bikes to arrive. So I wanted to show mine. I got it, but I also paid an additional $250 for insurance. Maybe that bumped me up in the list. I don't know. And then people who are in Europe, they have laws that say like 350 watts. They don't allow that. And, you know, shipping lithium batteries and doing all, like, I don't really know if this was done properly or how it will work for the rest of the world. But I wish you guys luck. I hope you get this. And it is fun to ride, and it's neat to see people experimenting with what's possible in terms of like product development and pricing in electric bikes, because it is fun. Sure, it's only one size and all that. Sure, it's, you know, I haven't finished my ride test yet, but we'll see how far it goes. It's what you get. It's kind of it. So let's see here. There were these kids earlier, and they were interested in test riding the bike. So I was gonna go ahead and let them try it. Hey, what's your name?
Alex.
Alex, cool. Have you ever ridden an electric bike?
Nope.
Do you want to just put your board down and go for a ride?
Yeah.
It's all set. All you have to do is press that trigger throttle. So kick the kickstand and go.
All right.
I might just jog next to you for a little bit.
Sit.
There you go. There he goes. He's having fun. Taking it straight to the salt water. There we go. You can see he's not having to pedal, but we are on the hard-packed sand here. There we go.
It's fast.
He says it's fast. That's fun. You have fun?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks. So you're gonna give your friend a try?
Yeah.
What's your name, bud?
I'm Dylan.
Dylan? Okay, sweet. Yeah, go for it. The instructions are press that throttle and it goes. That's about it, man. Have fun. Sorry that the seat's high. Woo! Okay, the battery's all charged up. Here is the display console. It only has 3 LEDs. That's kind of all the readouts you get. There's green, yellow, and red. And of course, green's when it's full and red's when it's not full. You can conserve the battery by accelerating slowly, keeping the tire pressure up, and riding on pavement. But I guess one of the things I noticed that, you know, this doesn't have is like the display that shows your speed, or a really more precise battery level indicator. So just keep that in mind when you're riding. Like, get used to the battery and kind of keep an eye on how far you can go, because everyone's going to be a little different. I've already turned the battery pack on, and now I'm going to press this little rubber button. It comes to life. So we're about halfway through the battery right now. I've been riding it a little bit, and there's the trigger throttle. I actually really like the design here because it's variable speed. It's pretty smooth. It doesn't get stuck, like pushed forward, and it works with these ergo grips they're pretty decent. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop on this thing, and there we go. Whoa. Pretty nice. Really appreciate those big tires helping to absorb some of these wooden log bumps. And the brakes work pretty well. You know, they're mechanical discs, so you have to pull a little bit harder on them to get it to stop, but it's pretty smooth, and they're going to be a little bit easier to tune up and stuff. You know, if they start to wear down on the pads and you have to tighten them or whatever. It's a little simpler, you know, and not bad. want to do an acceleration from stop here real quick. So we're on hard packed dirt, but it's still pretty, you know, and the tires are inflated. These are what, at like 15 PSI? So pretty hard. Here we go. Oh, there we go. It's working pretty well. I don't know exactly how fast I'm going because there's no display panel, but Strava was saying like probably average like 13, 14 miles per hour. Got a nice hill here. I'm just gonna start at the base and accelerate and see if it can lift me. Again, I weigh like 135 pounds, so not a whole lot. Okay, just ran out of batteries. It was kind of doing the like pulsing and completely red, and now it's just stopped. So we're at the final end of this experiment on range here. Again, this is brand new, really hasn't been ridden very much. The battery was completely topped off before we took it to, you know, along the trails and down to the beach. I did do a little bit of climbing and some of the dirt stuff you saw, so you can round up a little bit, but I've had Strava going in the background, and it says our total distance is 15.6 miles. Average speed was 13.9 miles per hour. This is a little bit heavier being a fat bike like that, more friction because of the wide tires and stuff, but it performed really well. I mean, I was impressed. I had fun with it. I've already touched on some of the challenges. Like when there's only one gear, if this runs out of batteries, it's hard. You kind of have to stand up and work at it to get it going. It's not fun to take up hills in that case. But when it is under power, it climbed really well. And I was doing these like ditch things, riding on the walls and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up the battery box and maybe comment on one other thing that I noticed while riding. First of all, it's narrow enough that I wasn't hitting my legs too much, but I did kind of scrape them a couple times, and I did hit this key thing here on my knee. Here are the keys. So it's cool that if you weren't with the bike, no one would be able to take the battery without really, breaking your system or whatever. But in order to get it out, you just insert the key like this, twist it, and then it's actually a pretty tight fit. You kind of have to squish the plastic and kind of pull it sideways like that to get it out. Yeah, the battery's hot right now because I just finished the ride. And there's the readout, 316.8 watt hours, and lithium ion Samsung cells is what it says on the sticker there. Here's the charging port, the little battery plug, little rubber thing, and kind of got like a little handle here, I guess, which is cool. And a little, maybe a charge level indicator. It's at red right now because we're like basically completely done. On-off switch. So that's what it looks like in here, in this battery bay. It's not too bad, but these are the wires that I was talking about earlier. And then down here, this is the cadence sensor wire that would normally go for if you had pedal assist, and it's like clipped right here. It doesn't go anywhere. So that was kind of an interesting discovery. I was surprised. And then this screw in here was a little bit loose. So there's kind of a boss right here and then two bosses here that kind of hold this whole thing, and a couple more up here. So make sure that over time, if you're riding this a lot, kind of check these bolts and tighten them up. You might have to take the battery holster out in order to reach that, but that's it. So I'm gonna try to put this in one more time, one-handed, sort of set the bottom in like that, and then squish it over, and then I'll turn the key a little bit to help it seat, and then you really have to like push down hard to get it to click. Okay, there we go. So we're pretty secure. And then, oops, there we go. There we go. Now we take out the keys. So that's it. That's a close-up look at the inside, which is pretty nice. There we go. Definitely keeping the sand off for our ride at the beach earlier, which is cool. Well, there we go. I've had mixed feelings about this bike because it's created a lot of controversy and people worrying about just whether it'll be delivered and whether it'll meet the specs. Did you have a good time?
Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, thanks, man. There you go.
Thank you.
Sure. So, it's been an interesting experience along the way. I want to support this space. That's why I do these reviews. But it does suck when a company says one thing, sells people on a product, and then delivers something different. Yes, this was a crowd-funded bike, but the original specs, even the original interviews I did with Mr. Storm Sondors, the gentleman at the demo day, he gave me feedback about what this bike would be, and he said that was the production bike, and it wasn't. Things changed, sometimes for the better, but it's just a little bit uncomfortable for me to have to watch this. People getting divided about what this will be and angry at each other and stuff. Maybe that's entertaining for them, but I wanted to create some transparency, so I've done my best to weigh it, give you some idea of how it performs, and remain unbiased. So I've had fun with it. I'm glad I got it. I hope you do too. But there are a lot of other electric bikes coming to the market that are available. There's a shop to support it. They've got a warranty. I can't tell you how long this battery is gonna last. After today, I'm gonna sell this, and that's it. I'm gonna move on to some other reviews. So help each other out. Maybe you can go back to the forums and share your experiences. Be nice to each other, okay? We're riding bikes here. If you're gonna spend your time being angry, you might wanna think about is it really worth it? Like, it's a bicycle. Have fun, and I'll see you back at the site. Cheers.